I came home to find my daughter, my baby, on the couch, pale and shaking, her jeans slit at the knee, and her legs swollen like it had been filled with gravel and betrayal. "Mom," she whispered, "it hurts so bad." I dropped my keys, dropped my heart. "What happened?" She hesitated, then said it like it was normal, like she was used to not mattering. "I think I broke it. I slipped on the back steps 4 hours ago."
4 hours
ago. I turned to my parents, her grandparents, and to my sister, who sat at the dining table scrolling her phone like this was any other Tuesday. She said it hurt, but she was crying too much to make sense. My mom shrugged. Dad didn't even look at me. We didn't have time to take her to the... Then my sister added without flinching. We had to pick up dry cleaning and get gas. She needed to toughen up anyway. My name is Danielle Hart. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever felt your love for your family rot right there in your chest? I didn't scream, didn't curse, didn't beg for decency. I picked up my daughter like she was 5 again despite the weight, despite her pain, and took her to the ER myself. Compound fracture, multiple small bone shards, and early signs of infection from walking on it. Yes, they made her walk. For 3 hours. I sat beside her hospital bed all night. She slept holding my hand, and I stared at the ceiling thinking, this wasn't just cruelty. It was convenience disguised as love. So I didn't text them, didn't answer their calls. Instead, I made a few calls of my own, the kind that don't come with warning shots. And 4 days later, they were screaming, but not out of rage, out of panic. 4 days later, I sent one email, just one, to Adult Protective Services, and another, to my lawyer. See, they thought they were untouchable. They thought I needed them, that because they'd watched my daughter while I worked, they could treat her like a burden. What they didn't know was, I had everything. The photos of her bruised leg, the ER report, time-stamped, fracture severity, infection risk, and the part that broke me in half. Patient reports being made to walk on injury for extended period. Family dismissed pain. Delay in care may result in complications. They thought they were the caregivers, but the only thing they gave her was trauma. I filed an official report. Negligence. Reckless endangerment of a minor. And I named all 3. My mother, my father, and my sister. The investigator called them on a Thursday. Asked simple questions. Why was there a delay in care? Who was supervising the minor? Why wasn't emergency transport provided? I wasn't there to see it, but I heard it, because later that day, they showed up on my front porch, pounding on the door like the house was on fire. Faces flushed, hands flying, voices panicked. Mom, you called the state on us? Dad, do you know what you've done? My sister, mascara smudged from fake tears. You're overreacting. It was just a sprain. I stepped outside.
Come clean.
Holding the crutch they made my daughter use like a weapon of silence. Say that again, I said, to her face. They all fell quiet, because she was standing behind me now, in a new boot, face steady. And she said it for me. It wasn't a sprain. You just didn't care. My mom reached for her. I stepped between them. You lost access the moment she begged for help, and you chose gas over humanity. My lawyer called that evening. Restraining order?
Filed.
Emergency custody paperwork?
Done.
Power of medical decision? Revoked. Permanently. I didn't raise my voice. I just raised the standard.
And now?
They were the ones limping behind the truth. By Monday morning, word had spread. Small towns have a way of swallowing secrets whole until someone spits them back up with receipts. My sister's Facebook wall turned quiet. No inspirational quotes. No staged coffee photos. Just silence. Because her post from a week ago, "Family is everything 2 hearts," now had a dozen comments under it. Left speech bubble. Didn't you leave your niece with a broken leg? Left speech bubble. Tough love doesn't mean neglect. Left speech bubble. You made her walk on a fracture? What the hell is wrong with you? I hadn't said a word publicly. Didn't have to. The truth had its own legs now, unbroken ones. And the people who once praised them? started pulling away like the room had caught fire. At the grocery store, my mom tried to act normal, but the cashier, who'd once hugged her at church, wouldn't make eye contact. Even the pharmacist who used to call her by name handed her the receipt without a word. Reputation?
Gone.
Their facade cracked like bone. Meanwhile, my daughter started to heal. Physically, slowly. But more importantly, emotionally. She stopped flinching when people raised their voice. She stopped apologizing for asking for a glass of water. She started laughing again. And I started building something better. Found a new sitter. A woman who treats kids like people, not inconveniences. Moved our appointments to a new clinic. One where the nurses knew her name by day 2. I came home to drawings on the fridge. Little stick figures, one with crutches, the other holding her hand. Underneath, she'd written, "Me and Mom. Safe." That night, I opened my inbox. A message from the investigator. Formal case is proceeding. They may be called for interviews under oath. Do not contact them. All communication should go through your legal counsel. I poured a glass of wine, tucked my daughter in, watched her sleep with both arms above her head, like she was no longer guarding herself. And I whispered, "They don't get to hurt you ever again. Not even in memory." They thought I'd explode, but instead, I erased them. 3 weeks later, it came. A letter in a cheap white envelope. No return address. No handwriting. Just my name, typed like a final attempt at control. Inside, a printed message from my mother. Asterisk Danielle, this has all gone too far. Families argue. Mistakes happen. But reporting your own blood? That's beyond cruel. Your sister is devastated. Your father hasn't slept. This is your final chance to undo what you've done. Come to the house.
Sit down.
Let's fix this before you destroy everything. Asterisk. I folded the letter. Poured myself a coffee.
Laughed.
Because the audacity it takes to break a child, to deny her emergency care, to make her walk on a broken leg, and then call me the destroyer? That's not love. That's narcissism dressed in family values. I walked to the trash can and dropped the letter in, like it belonged exactly there. Then I sat with my daughter as she picked out new shoes. Her first day back at school was next week. We chose glittery ones. Not because they were flashy. Because they made her smile, without flinching. That night, I told her the truth. You don't ever have to see them again. Not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough to choose peace over people who think pain makes you tougher. She nodded slowly, then asked, "Does that make me bad?" I pulled her in. "No, baby. That makes you free." My sister tried texting again. "Speech balloon, you've made your point. Can we stop now?" I didn't reply, because I hadn't made a point. I had drawn a line, and I was watching them drown on the other side of it. The case moved forward. Formal investigation. Potential charges of negligence. But that wasn't the justice I cared about. The real justice was watching my daughter walk again, not in pain, not out of fear, but into a world where no one gets to call abuse discipline, or betrayal love. They wanted to teach her pain, but I taught her power. They used to control everything. The stories.
The tone.
The way people looked at me in town. Danielle's too sensitive. She always overreacts. You know how she is when it comes to her daughter. But not anymore. Because when the county filed a formal notice, it became public record. Negligent supervision of a minor resulting in delayed medical care. 3 names listed. My mom, my dad, my sister. Suddenly, they weren't the victims in hushed kitchen conversations. They were the problem. And the narrative they'd clung to like armor?
Shattered.
My sister lost her babysitting gig. The local mom group blacklisted her. One parent posted anonymously. Left speech bubble. If she let her own niece walk on a broken leg, what would she do to a kid that's not blood? My father tried damage control. He went to church and cried during testimony. "Pray for our family," he sniffled. "We're under attack." But the pastor's wife, who's a nurse, stood up after and calmly said, "I've read the medical report. Neglect isn't a family disagreement. It's a crime." Even the ones who used to take their side started crossing the street when they saw them. They came undone, one layer at a time. Not because I screamed, not because I begged, but because I documented every photo, every message, every silence. And when people finally saw it, they couldn't unsee it. Meanwhile, my daughter was thriving. PT sessions turned into dance classes, crutches into sneakers, whispers into giggles. She even asked if we could repaint her room. I wanted to feel like mine again, she said. So we did. Lavender walls, new posters, soft lights. And on her door, she hung a sign. No toxicity beyond this point. The night we finished, she hugged me tight and said, "Thank you for choosing me." I whispered, "Always." Because breaking the cycle doesn't start with screaming. It starts with one choice. Protect the innocent, even if it means losing the familiar. They thought they could tell the story for me. But I took the pen back. It was a Sunday. Quiet, ordinary until it wasn't. I was in the produce aisle, choosing apples with my daughter by my side. Her hair tied up in a pink scarf, a sparkle in her step I hadn't seen in months. When I heard that familiar, too cheerful voice behind me.
Oh, Danielle.
There you are. I turned slowly. My mom, holding a basket full of nothing, like she came to shop but couldn't remember what for. She smiled like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't made my daughter walk on a shattered leg. Like she hadn't tried to rewrite the entire story in her own blood-soaked font. "Can we talk for just a second?" she asked. My daughter froze next to me. I felt her hand tighten around mine. I stepped between them.
No.
Mom blinked. "What do you mean no?" "I'm your mother." I said it without emotion, like I was reading it from a courtroom script. "You are a biological relative who endangered my child. That's where your role ends." People were watching now. Employees, strangers, neighbors who once invited her to potlucks. Now standing still, pretending not to hear. "You're being so cold," she hissed. "You're teaching her to hate us." I leaned in just enough so she could hear the venom she once called softness. "I'm teaching her that silence isn't strength. That family doesn't mean forgiving cruelty. That love without safety is just manipulation with better lighting." She reached out. I stepped back. "You don't get to touch us," I said. "Not anymore." I turned and walked away. My daughter's head high beside me. Behind us, I heard my mother drop something. Maybe it was her basket. Maybe it was the illusion that she still had access. Either way, I didn't turn around. Because healing doesn't always look like closure. Sometimes, it looks like a quiet walk away from a woman you used to call mom, while your daughter watches and learns what protection really means. And I wasn't teaching her revenge. I was teaching her freedom. It happened at school. Parent-teacher conference. Her biology teacher said, "She's different now. More sure of herself." She told the class she wants to be a trauma surgeon. I blinked. "She never told me that." He smiled. "She said it's because she wants to be the person she never had before." Later that night, I told her, "I'm proud of you for being brave enough to imagine a future." She looked at me, eyes firm. I didn't want to be stuck in that house forever. I thought that's how adults were supposed to act. Cold, dismissive. I shook my head.
No.
That's how broken adults behave when they never heal. You don't have to carry any of that. Then she said it, the line that will stay with me forever. They thought walking on my leg would teach me pain, but it taught me to never be like them. Her voice didn't crack. She didn't look for approval. She wasn't scared anymore. That weekend, I let her write a letter.
To them.
Not to reopen anything, but to close it properly. It was simple. Typed, printed, sealed. "You hurt me. You didn't listen. You made me walk when I was already broken. But I'm healing now. And that healing doesn't include you. I don't need an apology. I need space. And I'm keeping it." We mailed it together. No return address. No expectation. We left it in the mailbox like a grave marker. Not because we wanted them to respond, but because we had nothing left to say. And that night, she laughed in her sleep. Not cried.
Laughed.
The kind of laugh that only comes when a child finally feels safe enough to forget the weight of survival. I watched her from the doorway and whispered, "They'll never touch this piece again." Because the most powerful thing I ever did wasn't protect her from monsters. It was teaching her how to never become one. It's been 6 months. Since the fracture. Since the silence. Since I stopped calling it family and started calling it what it really was, a wound I no longer press on to feel alive. We moved. Not far. Just far enough that no one drops by just to talk. The new house has light, big windows, and closets filled with peace instead of secrets. My daughter got a scholarship, wrote her essay on the day I stopped walking on pain and started walking in purpose. She didn't name them. She didn't have to. The truth had its own voice, and she let it sing. One evening, we sat on the porch, watching rain slide down the roof. She asked, "Do you ever miss them?" I didn't lie. Sometimes I miss the idea of them, the version I hoped they could be. She nodded. Me too. But I love what we have more. She rested her head on my shoulder, and for the first time in forever, there was no weight behind it. No fear. No apology. Just warmth. Real, earned, healed. The report closed last week. Case sealed. Protective order finalized. They can never contact her again without going through court. They haven't tried. Not since they realized I was no longer their scared little girl. I was a mother now. One who knew exactly what love is supposed to feel like, and everything it's not. We celebrated her 17th birthday in the backyard. Cake, music, real laughter. She ran across the grass in bare feet. And this time, nothing hurt. As I watched her glow under string lights, I realized we didn't just survive. We rebuilt. No apologies. No looking back. No more guilt dragging behind us like a leash. Because the cycle ends here. And it ends with us.